Guys, welcome to the Doom
Hello.
Drop podcast with Sanity and
The what
Shun.
podcast?
The Doom Drop.
The Doom Drop podcast. That sounds pretty good, Sam. I like that.
That's what we're going with. That's what we've
Here we are.
chosen. We don't really know what we're doing. We're just messing around. This is really an excuse to hang out and talk more.
It's literally that. It's literally just we want to be able to have an excuse to come together, have a good time, maybe talk about some super serious stuff, but in a chilled out way, and not be too divisive. Much more moderate in our ways of, viewing it and being more nuanced and what have you.
We've had a lot of weird conversations, fun conversations, off mic or off stream, and yeah, just would be fun to share them with an audience as well and see how it goes. I think it'll be fun,
Yeah,
Shun.
I think so too.
So we're not gonna have like a super strict structure. It's gonna be a lot different than our usual like casting where we're always talking
Right.
about StarCraft. We're planning to just talk about whatever. We'll talk about StarCraft sometime too, but
Yeah, and if we do talk about certain subjects, like say we might talk about Starcraft, we're not going to go into the nitty gritty like we might in a cast. We might just like maybe talk about like things on a more surface level, not necessarily on a game level.
or like philosophy behind certain things instead of
Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
actual strategy or anything like that. And uh,
exactly.
if we do talk about games or uh, tournaments that are going on right now, we're not gonna give any spoilers, so don't worry about that, guys.
Absolutely no. We're not going to talk about the ASL guys. You can chill. Oh,
Well,
did you hear about? No, I'm just kidding.
well, we did agree that we were going to talk about the ASL a little bit. We were going to talk about the Tastosis broadcast. You were just watching it, right?
Yes. Yeah, and we're not going to talk about the games, but we're going to talk about the interesting dynamic of the audio setup and how it's kind of like an ASMR stream where you've got like the 3DO mic with the two ears on either end, and it's like you got tasteless on the left just whispering into one ear, and you got Artosis on the right or whatever. It's bizarre, man.
Yeah, when I first started listening, I only had one headphone in, and I was like, "What the hell is going on right now?" This is Tasteless talking to himself and like a whisper of Artosis in the background. But I put my other headphone in and I realized, and then oh, it's a weird audio setup, man. And they also
Yeah.
have I noticed they also have like a mute button. They both must have a mute button for when they cough. And whenever they
Mhm.
cough, they the mute button turns off all sound to that ear. So like the
Right.
tasteless goes to cough and then you can't hear anything out of your left ear for like,
That's so
30
weird.
seconds or whatever. It's so strange.
It's like you're deaf in one ear all of a sudden. And it's like, yeah, I don't know what exactly. It's almost, but it's almost a skill. It's a skill that they even got the channels set up that way. I mean, I'm sure you and I, in the struggle getting set up in a hotel room, we probably would mess up as well. But we also probably wouldn't be able to figure out how to even get that set up if we tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know how you would do that. How would you get the left and right ear? Maybe I could figure it out if I really tried, but that's
Yeah.
that's some skill right there.
Well, is it possible that they tried using like like in the ASMR streams, the one of those like binaural microphones, not the ear one, but where it's got like two microphones kind of angled, pointing in different directions, and they've got that sitting between them, so it's like technically got two channels, or maybe I don't know.
I can see that they both have lapel mics. So they're using lapel mics, and
Uh
I think the problem with the lapel mic is that uh they pick up more sound from around you. So if Artosis is talking, Tasteless's mic might pick it up. So I think that's
yeah.
why they've gone left and right so that it's not like a double voice. You know what I mean? You can't hear like an echo
But
from
that would be
both
the
mics.
problem, right? If you
Yeah,
got like two mics side by side, they have to be really directional and really well set up to not have any kind of like bleed from the other microphone, right?
that's right. So I definitely understandable. It's just a little bit funny. Totally different from your regular ASL uh
Yeah.
setup, but it really makes
Although,
you appreciate like when they were in studio how good they
yes.
sounded.
Just about to say the same thing exactly, because it's been quite a long time since they've actually been sat side by side, and they said themselves like they cast better like that because they're not interrupting each other. There's no delay on Discord, no bad audio from Discord lag or whatever. Yeah, and just the fact that you're side by side, I think that's more their natural dynamic, right? That's pretty much how they came up together
Mm-hmm.
side by side, and that was where they developed. So going back to that, I'm sure must feel something for them as well. I'd feel a certain way about it. That's all I know.
The ASL team, or the Africa TV team, that was in charge of their audio back in the studio days was pretty decent, man. They had a really good,
Mm,
really good no bleed audio even inside of the studio. You know, with the fans cheering and stuff. That's pretty damn
yeah,
good. I mean, it really makes you appreciate
yeah,
it. But it is what it is. We're in a new age of StarCraft here, where it's like we're not reliant on those big companies anymore. We don't get the benefits. We don't get the negatives either, though.
hell, it's about time.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's a different world. The YouTube landscape, the Twitch landscape has completely changed, right?
Right, right, and it will continue to change. Like change is the only constant that you can be damn sure about.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope that it's changing in a good direction. I feel like it has, don't you, Shin?
I do. I also think that there's opportunities here for not only the scene to be maintained and go forward as like this retro RTS, because we're probably not going to see anything like this coming up in the future. Maybe some RTS games that kind of try and emulate that vein, but they're not going to get anything close to that, Or at least it will not be commercially viable. Maybe there'll be something community made with the assistance of AI or something, right? Maybe, who knows? But I think it's going to maybe go into the halls of fame as like this retro RTS that's going to be played for many years to come. I don't know if that's going to be like decades or I don't know, but what I do know is that there's an opportunity though for us to breathe new, not just maintain that, but also breathe new blood and life into that, and start coming out with some more content ideas. Streamers are doing a lot with like finding ways of like mining for content in other ways, even if that's just like shenanigans on the ladder, like doing funny stuff, or whatever it is.
Well, Koreans have found out like a brand new way to mine content on the in StarCraft Brood War with Pro League. And I was telling you a little bit about this, but I'll drop some facts on you
Mm,
right now because I've been researching this.
go on.
Uh, a bunch of different players have made over $150,000 this year from Pro League alone.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah,
Christmas has come.
there's some crazy stats out there for these guys who are doing the pro leagues, and
Well, that's
our ASL tier players like Soul Key, Rush, even Sharp. Just these different really good players who play in the pro league very regularly. The pro league is just blown up recently. It's a community led thing. I can tell you guys about it a little
nice.
bit. It's a pro league that has it's a league, it's a tournament basically that has no administration at all. It's completely run by the streamers. One of the streamers will decide that they're going to open a pro league, and then they invite everybody else in. They agree on like a buy in amount. How much is it going to cost to get each player, or how much does each player have to contribute to the pro league that day?
Mm,
And then the streamers will go out and ask their fans, their streams, to donate for their buy-in.
to
So
generate that.
they
Yeah, yeah.
generate the money, and they send, they pool all the money together, and then they randomly select the people. There'll be about 10 people, and it'll be 5 versus 5,
Mm,
and they randomly select who's going to be on each team. So at the beginning of the day, right? Like you don't go in and try to like stack the
oh,
teams.
wow, yeah.
There's no stacking of the teams. So they're picking players who are good, who they would want either to play against or to play with. You know what I mean? So there's no
Right.
like stacking. They just pick the best players, and the better it is, the more people are going to donate as well, right? So they get the donations in. If they don't meet the donations, sometimes the streamers will put their own money in to reach the buy-in, and then they pool all the money. They split everybody up into two teams randomly, and then they play a huge set of games where it could be up to like 25 games. It's really long. It's like the whole day. They go for like 6 or 7 hours, and at the end, one team is victorious, and they take all the prize money. The other team goes home empty handed, and It's been crazy this past year. In 2023, there was a week, there was a day, excuse me, just one day of Pro League. The prize pool was over $35,000. It was like crazy, 35K.
Wow. I mean, that's exciting for a lot of reasons. Saying, I mean, on the one hand, you've got like for the gamers by the sorry for the gamers by the gamers thing going on, which is amazing. And then the fact that right now the biggest problem I would say with the pro scene has been the fact that they're not making salary money with the pro scene. The ASL is not going to cover that salary. Like they have to get it through streaming. You know what I mean? They have to supplement that income in some way. But now with stuff like that, it's going to keep everyone like sweet and happy and wanting to maintain that as a career if they're going to get that like guaranteed paycheck kind of thing.
The old days of the team houses and sponsors, uh, you know, sponsoring big teams is just kind of
Right.
gone, right? There's no
Right.
SK Telecom uh, Brood War team anymore. I don't think, and at least they're not sponsoring and paying for all these gamers rent and giving them opportunities like that. They have to make their own way, so it's really cool to see them figuring that out. And one of the big things I want to put into this video coming up is that this is replicable. This is something that could be
Mm.
done in other video games as well and other scenes as well, because they're like making huge amounts of money, and the reason is that it's freaking fun. It's really fun to
Yeah.
watch all of your favorite streamers play for, thousands of dollars. And it's basically like the tournament feel. It's like a really intense tournament feel where everyone's trying their absolute hardest, but you can
Exactly.
get it every single day. You don't have to wait months and months and months for an ASL, you know what I
Ooh,
mean? You
baby.
just
It's like
just show up and there it is. It's already being played.
it, it's just like those old days where we had like two television channels in Korea dedicated to Starcraft games. Imagine that, guys. Wake up in your hotel room, flip on the TV, and there's the Starcraft game. You flip to the other channel, there's another Starcraft game. The old times were crazy. The golden age may have ended, but we're ushering in a new era. So what was it the Chinese Age of Dragon, Chinese Year of the Dragon now? So we're in the Dragon Starcraft era, but new golden era, hopefully.
If you're a Korean speaker, I mean, it's definitely a golden age right now. It's a little bit hard for us English speakers because we can't really participate as well in the uh pro league that's going on, because we just don't really understand what they're saying. There's so much chatter going on. Of course, it would be so much fun. Just imagine your favorite streamers in whatever game. Think about like uh, Melee, or Super Smash Bros.
Mm.
Melee or
Smash,
something.
yeah, smash.
You've got 5 or 10 streamers together, and they're split into two teams, and then you're watching, team A, all 5 of them in a Discord chat talking, and then one of them plays, and all the other ones talk shit about them, and like, watch the game, and it's just a lot of fun. Yeah, it's really really fun to watch, and you can watch
Yeah.
their first person view, and you can watch them from like the observer perspective, or you can watch them from the other team's perspective. It's really really cool. There's so much content to be mined there. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean, and the streamers are already kind of like waking up to like just how much of a gold mine, like pretty much anything that they do, like they can get content for anything. If they had games against foreigners, they could make content making fun of the foreigners, and the foreigners could have content like dealing with the pros or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's so much content out there, and we just need to help usher in this new golden age.
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there, man. Lots of opportunities, and we're looking into those things. We've got some big plans on the horizon here. We'll see what we
Yeah,
can do,
boy.
but there's yeah, we've got ideas, and we're looking forward to bringing those to you guys.
Yeah, and I think what's great about that saying is that we're not doing it from like a omnipotent mindset. We're not doing the thing where like we're on Twitter complaining about macro issues that we're not actually able to contribute anything towards. Like we're not complaining about homelessness. We're going down to the soup kitchen and actually doing what we can do, right?
That's right. We're contributing to the community that we love, and
Yeah.
because it's a small community, we can make a bigger impact. I think that's a good way to look at it.
in an indirect way, I just kind of called the Starcraft community homeless, and that we're like going there to give them soup. Wasn't the intention, but it's kind of a funny image, guys. uh,
I was just gonna let that go, but maybe some people online might be in the comments slamming away. What are you saying?
oh man,
Yeah, what are you trying to say, Shun?
I'll try and explain it. 'Cause it's always funnier when you explain the joke, right? oh man. Ah, but yeah, it's good to just like be able to just come and shoot the shit with you again, and doing it in a format where we can actually, put some content out there to entertain people and show them what we talk about sometimes, and also getting a chance to talk about topics that a lot of platforms kind of get wrong. I don't know, like, or at least when they do talk about them, it's very emotionally charged. It's just like clickbaity stuff, like trying to like just plug an agenda for the sake of profit. You know what I mean?
And everyone's trying to sell something. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah,
Even when they're talking
that's because
about
it's good,
like social issues and stuff and things that are really
right?
important, they're like trying to sell something and they're like their message is kind of fake in that way. Like, would you really be saying that unless you were selling? If you were selling, or if you weren't selling something, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's like you get like say like some like red pill kind of content where it's like the guy's like he's giving you like advice on how to get women, but really he's trying to bottleneck you into like joining his course where you give him some money to like learn the real stuff or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's frustrating to watch those type of things, man. And the way that they characterize women in a lot of those is
Yeah.
it's not helpful to any person who's trying to
Healthy or
get laid.
helpful?
It's not helpful to try and or for anyone who's trying to find like a real connection. I was watching
Well, that's
something
just
this
it.
morning. I was watching something this morning. Hold on. I just want to
Go on.
get this one out there is there was a guy who was talking to a girl about body count, and then he was saying like if you're traveling across Europe and you wanted to drive a car, you're gonna pick a car to drive across Europe. Um, would you want the old car with tons of mileage on it, or would you want the new car with no? Like, dude, you can't. Like, why are we
Mm.
comparing women to cars? That makes
Also,
this is
that's
so
actually not even
silly.
true, though. Hang on a minute, that's not even true though, because it could you'd actually kind of want some experience. You want her to at least have some idea what she's doing. You know what I mean? Like even that doesn't even necessarily apply. So I don't know, man.
No,
Weird
it's
logic.
a
Anyway,
terrible, terrible way
terrible
to
take. You were just
it's
logic.
terrible take, man. It's a
Yeah,
terrible metaphor. Like, but I understand what they're doing. You know what I mean? I understand. It's like okay, men understand cars, right? Let's compare a woman to a car. Like,
yeah.
dude, you can't. That's not a comparison that you can make. It has nothing to do with
But
a
in a
human
way, it's
being.
indoctrination, though. We think about it like this, in a way, it's like brainwashing to a certain degree, in the sense of they're trying to really help the other guys objectify the women even further, right? They want to set that premise up first. Like, first of all, let's think of the women as objects, and then from that framework, the other stuff will seem like it's more palatable from that framework. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe it's it's strange. It's like this is the thing that women really don't like is when people when guys objectify them and you're as a person who's like an influencer
Genuinely, yeah.
pushing that towards people like telling
Hmm.
men like this is the way you should think about women, right? Like you should think about them like a car. This is the way women should think about themselves. It's like that's just not it's not relevant, it's not smart, it's not anything good for men or women. It's just silliness, and it's not
But
helping anyway. It's very strange, and the whole body count thing is another whole topic maybe we could talk about.
yeah, yeah. Well, what would you? Yeah. Well, what about? Do you want to go into body count right now, or do you want to like skip over that?
And we can talk about it if you want. It's up to you.
How do you feel about body count then? So all right. So do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about our body count just
That
for the purpose of argument, or?
I don't think
Uh,
our body counts
okay.
even matter at all because we're men, right? The
No, no, no.
whole issue around it
Right.
is like that women having a high body count is really bad, and I
Yeah, yeah,
feel
yeah.
like it's kind of stupid and disgusting. It's really
Well,
silly.
Okay. So what? Okay. First of all, let's define body count. So what does body count mean to you? Like, is that like penetrative sex only? Do you include like oral sex? Like, where's the line? Where are we drawing the boundary first? Let's define it.
Well, I don't think it matters what we think. I think it what really matters is what these red pill guys are talking about, right? Like they're always discussing about women's body counts and like talking about how having a
Mm,
lower body count is better, that men biologically want a lower body count, you know what I mean? Like
hmm
they're programmed to want a lower body count. I feel like this is all social programming what you're talking about, in that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the body count thing only matters if it matters in your culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're trying to like create or push this culture on you by saying to you that it is like a biological thing. You know what I mean?
They're trying to like they're not just trying to program socially, they're also trying to deprogram. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to like deprogram all of the progress that the society has made since those more traditional ways of thinking time. You know what I'm saying? So like all that they want to
It's
override that as well. So they're not just giving you new programming, they're also trying to like put a
deprogram.
veil over to put a veil over and to deprogram all that other stuff that maybe would benefit you in helping you see the nuances and realize the fallacies and what they're trying to push.
There's it's a pendulum swinging back the other direction, right?
Yeah, it's counterculture, right? It's going to do that. It's the right as the right become more right, the left become more left, and vice versa, and it will keep swinging this way, so to speak.
Yeah, well, let's talk about body count, man. Let's actually get
Sure,
into
let's
it,
do
what
it.
we actually
Let's do
think.
it, man. Can we define it real quick? So, what do you think?
What do you
I'm
think?
gonna
You go
premise.
ahead. You
I
define
pre-
it.
in my presupposition here, guys. Body count. So we're talking about the body, right? How many bodies have you had? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone's giving me oral sex, I'm not getting their body. I'm getting one tiny part of them, right? Whereas if you're having an intimate bond where you're like actually, connected to that fucking person, you're like, inside them. Like there's things that happen differently, right? Like in terms of like serotonin being released and shit. Like yeah, I mean, obviously the male is like getting more like dopamine and stuff, but yeah, but in terms of bonding and stuff, like yeah, like I would say it's got to be the actual penetrative act. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I guess you could say like contact count in terms of like slightly, just oral sex stuff. You could like kind of separate the counts. So you could say like if you're talking about sexual contact, I've got 50, and if you're talking about actual body count, I've got 20, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
I would just think it's a sexual encounter, because every sexual encounter is like
We define sexual encounter though. So if I get
it's like
into a
an
car
ex
with someone and they touch my penis for 5 seconds, is that a sexual encounter? It is, right? So that's a weird body count to include, I think.
Well, it's all experience that informs your future sexual encounters, right?
So you include any kind of sexual contact.
Mm, for the sake of this conversation, I guess we'll just talk about penetration, because that makes the most sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Less
Because I'm
less
just gonna
less
say,
nuance
I'm
and
just gonna put out
weirdness.
there. I'm just gonna put out there. If you include any kind of sexual contact, holy crap, is my number high, and I hope it's not that way of dealing with it. Yeah, I hope it's just the penetration now. I think it should be though. I think it should be, man.
All right. Well, the premise that a lot of these people are talking about is that red pill, like, high body count is bad for a woman. They talk about
Mm.
like oh yeah, it's fine for a man to have a high body count, doesn't matter. And I think that's really true, but that's just, again, it's about it's cultural, right? The
Mm.
problem with like the only problem they have is with a woman who has a high body count. And I think that a lot of
The
it
hypergamy
actually
angle.
a lot of it stems from like just feelings of inadequacy, honestly. And it does come out in their conversations sometimes.
Yeah, man. Can I quickly just say something about that?
Mm.
I'm just gonna name drop Andrew Tate for a second. Like, I'll be totally real with you. Like, I actually get. I'm not saying he is, by the way, but I get like, almost like more than just insecurity. Like, it seems like yes, he's a grifter, and yes, he's trying to make money, but underneath all that, seeing his past, I've seen like videos of him before he like even was like that masculine kind of thing, like before he was like a kind of like everything about him kind of makes me think that there is more under that, and it is like a big projection insecurity thing. Where underneath that is a lot of like needing to be in control because they're so insecure, and needing to have that level of crazy toxicity to establish that control, just so they feel comfortable in their own skin because they're not okay with themselves as people. They're not okay with that. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like, go on.
let me give you a like a concrete example. Is like when they're talking about the body count issue directly, they're saying in a lot of these podcasts or the ones that I've seen is that the reason why they don't like that is because, or they don't like the girl to have a high body count, is because they don't want them to be compared to all the other men that the girl's been with. Like they don't want to, the girl to be thinking about those other encounters and how much better they were or how much different they
Yeah,
were. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And my thought about that is just it's just complete.
it's crazy.
It's completely your own internal monologue, you know what I mean? That has nothing to do with the woman. That is your
And
insecurity.
do you know what the biggest irony of that is? Is that
Uh,
they will stay worse at sex because if they actually got with women which did have a slightly higher body count and were like more like sexually liberated and knew what they liked. Here's the key thing: knew what they liked, because they can
mm,
then communicate to that guy what they like, and that guy actually starts to learn some shit about what to do, rather than just like being with inexperienced girls, so he doesn't feel insecure. He doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what to do. What do you think happens?
nobody learns anything and nobody gets better.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
exactly what you're talking about. And it's sad. It's sad to hear those justifications because I can just see the insecurity in them and they're like projecting that out to millions of people and making it feel like, oh yeah,
Having bad sex.
that's an okay way to be. Just don't be with you're worried about your sexual performance. Just don't get with anyone who's got multiple partners, so that
It's crazy.
just get with a
So
virgin so that they don't know what they're doing, and you could just teach them.
you want to run, go out and crawl on the street. What kind of logic is that?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. It's very strange to me, and the whole like biological thing, like the whole what's it called, like argument where they say,
Mm.
oh, it's biological. Men wouldn't want to be with somebody who has a high body count. I don't think that that's true at all. What do you think, Shun?
I mean, I'm sure there's a threshold. I'll be real for a second. Like, I'm not talking about me personally. I'm gonna devil's advocate a little bit, because there's no one else here to like argue for the other side, right?
Hmm.
I'll do a little pushback on it as well, and I'll say like, I guess there is for some guys a threshold where it's like, okay, well, if she's got 100 body count, it's like, do I want to have kids with her because isn't she like so promiscuous that she won't be sexually happy in the relationship? That's going to be their logic, right? That's going to be like from their angle. That's where they're going to come at it from. Even if there
Sure.
is like deeper insecurities underneath that, that's going to be how they rationalize it, and that's going to be the argument and logic they attack that with, right?
Right. But what I'm this is like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like the woman might be, if they're more promiscuous, then they might be less likely to change and be,
And be nurturing
a
mother and
nurturing
stuff, yeah.
mother and
From
like
their angle, yeah.
stay with the guy, right? Yeah, you've definitely got to approach it from that angle too, right? But I'm saying biologically speaking, is it attractive, a girl that has
Oh, you mean
more,
just sexually attractive only? You're not
right?
talking about
Like
for the purposes of reproduction.
I'm
This is the issue.
saying, well,
Yeah,
sex sexually attractive and reproductively attractive is kind of the same
different.
thing, don't you
Exactly.
mean?
But
No?
but yes and no. I think it's like when you talk about sexuality and gender, like, yes, they both have things that overlap, like a Venn diagram, right? But also they are like not necessarily the same thing in terms of definitions and how you apply them.
Right. So let's we've got a person who has like a very high body count, a woman who has a very high body
Mm.
count, and a man is there. He's still going to be sexually attracted to her regardless of her body count. Am I right or wrong?
Oh yeah, no, I would even go. I'll steel man you even further and say like not only that, but I would argue that generally speaking, unless you're like pansexual or something, you're like biologically engineered to probably fuck like at least 80% of the women out there. If you had to, like, let's just say hypothetically you had to for whatever reason, you could
Mhm.
easily fuck 80% of women out
So then you're already attracted to the woman, right? And
there.
you then think with your logical brain, like you hear that she has a high body count, right? You think with your
Right.
logical brain, maybe she might be promiscuous even if we were in a relationship. You know what I
It's
mean?
yeah. I would.
She might be willing to cheat on me, right?
Well, I'll push back against the red pill philosophy even further and
Mm,
say like these people are hypocrites because they actually are the kind of people that do go out and fuck sluts in their mind. They call them
mm,
sluts, right? So in their mind, they actually do go out and fuck sluts. They don't want to necessarily be a they want a boyfriend and girlfriend thing, right? They don't necessarily want to date this chick, but they will go and bang sluts, right? In their
mhm,
mind, they're going out and banging sluts still, and they just look at them as objects and they whatever. But the point is that it's hypocritical because they are the ones that are perpetuating that society because they're reinforcing that behavior with the women because the women are getting what they want by being able to fuck all these guys, and
mhm.
they're the ones that are doing that.
Yeah, they're definitely reinforcing the stereotype and also pushing it out to everybody, pushing everybody towards that sort of mentality. And what I'm trying to say here with the with like this example that I was talking about is that the man is like logically thinking, and this is not like a misstep at all, that wow, that person has a really high body count, maybe they're going to, you know, cheat on me in the future. Like that's something that is clearly going to go through their head, right? But whether or not they want to
Absolutely.
get like wife up that person doesn't have anything to do with their biology. I think it has everything to do with like social stigma and shame about like what if we run into someone that she had sex with before? Do you know what I mean? What if there's like videos of her
Uh,
online and someone finds out
yeah.
about it? Or you know, like what if there's like someone
Hmm.
from, you know, my outer social circle that has slept with her before? Like this is the like social stigma aspect of the thought process, right? This is not a biological thing where like, oh, men, they only want to have sex with and wife up women who have a low body count. This is social stigma, and I'm saying like having sex with a woman who has a high body count, there's no biological basis for that. Like you
Yeah.
definitely want to have sex with people who have a high body count. Look at how many people watch porn. You think like they're looking at those
What do you
people
think?
in porn videos, they're so attractive. The look think of how many men wanna fuck porn stars, like and basically all of them wanna fuck porn stars, and they have the highest body counts of anyone, right?
Right, right. But I would even, yeah, going further and like say maybe back in like even caveman era, like I don't think the caveman had any problems with like sharing women in front of each other. You know what I mean?
No, no, yeah, if you wanna go back that far, for sure. It's only because of agriculture and the people, you know, getting into larger societies where the rules of the jungle no longer apply. That's when things, you know, get set up for more you know,
Right.
that like this sort of like monogamous and very like structured relationships actually comes into play, right? Like back if we're
Mhm.
talking about like caveman days, if we're talking about like you know, nomadic tribes people, yeah, they don't give a shit. Like they're all just trying to live and enjoy life, you know? Like there's not a lot of fun to be had. There's of course you know, the joy of like feeding your family and hunting and surviving and you know, singing and doing all the you know, nomadic tribes people uh cultural things. Of course, those should be fun to you if you're a nomadic tribes person, but like just in the base terms, like there's you know, there's not a lot of really exciting things to do besides getting down and dirty, right? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, especially I think I can go back even further, guys. What about like the Ice Age, where we got down to about 1,000 humans? What do you think those guys are up to? Do you think they were out playing in the snow, or do you think they were huddled in a cave, like not essentially having an orgy, but that's what else do you think we were up to? Like they're doing a lot of fucking in the cave, probably too, right? They got 1,000 people they need to survive, and they went from 1,000 to how many billion? What do you think they were doing a lot?
Yeah, there's a lot of this weirdness of people like shaming each other for doing things that they're all secretly doing as well, right? Like this
Yeah,
sort of
social
weirdness.
shaming is a big. But do you know what's okay? I'm going to touch upon that for a quick sec. What's even crazier is the hypocrisy. Like,
Mm,
say, I'll bash both sides. So, like, say on the left, like you've got people that are like, on the one hand, like expecting you to conduct yourself in a certain way. Well, they'll happily shame different things about you. They might like say bash a guy for his other reasons, like his height or something or whatever else. Meanwhile, you can't say anything about her weight. You know what I mean? Like they'll body shame you in one way and say you can't body shame them. You know what I'm saying? There's like a deep hypocrisy as well in
oh,
these
there's
communities.
massive hypocrisy, and there's even massive hypocrisy to the women who go on those red pill shows, right? I think that that's the
Uh-huh.
reason why these things have become so popular. These red pill shows have become so popular, is because there is that massive hypocrisy, and in those shows they ask questions and talk to them about things that reveal how hypocritical the left is and how hypocritical like modern society and the expectations
Right.
and the interests are. It's so obvious and blatant as soon as they say it. It's obviously true. The problem is that that gives them like a lot of credence, it gives them a lot of credit, and then they
Yeah.
use that credit to like give you a garbage solution, the solution being like, you know, super materialistic, treat women like objects, think of women like this rather than like a human being, think of them like a car, or, treat
Or
them,
a slot machine. A slot
yeah, a
machine is
slot
basically what
machine.
they basically are looking them at as. Yeah.
Yeah, and the solution is worse than the problem, is what I'll say. It's like their prescription is more damaging than the hypocrisy that exists in the society. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. Speaking of this topic, like what's frustrating is it seems like it's cyclical in the sense that because of that divide where it's like it's so easy to then pick apart the arguments because it's so dumb, right? They go so extreme that it then becomes like, clown world type stuff, right? But that creates the content, like you say, right? That explosivity creates the content. So it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the more that it's inflammatory and the more that they become shifted apart and further down the political poles, whatever you want to say, like that, the more that polarity maintains itself, it will continue to grow because they become further apart, like a magnet pushing on itself, but growing in strength. And because of that, because it's then more divisive, it's cyclical, and then also makes it even more inflammatory and even more reactive and even more like dumb, that easy to pick apart. So it can generate even more content. You can have even more like gotcha moments, or girls saying dumb things, or not being able to list like 3 countries or whatever, and like whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny that that's like a girl thing that they're. I feel like that's an American or like a youth thing right now, is that people don't know much about the world because they're so
Right.
involved in their phones, right? Like they're so it's really like a problem of our time right now, is that people are just getting dumber even though their phones are getting smarter. Every
Mhm.
technology is getting infinitely better and people are getting dumber and dumber as a result. It's
More dependent on the technology. It's like, say, people used to be able to read maps, but now they got GPS, and with the phones and stuff, it's like you're like, it's like Elon Musk says, like you're essentially like now a cyborg, right? And these people, some of them, literally can't be separated from their phones. Like to go a whole day without their phone would like maybe feel akin to like losing a limb. You know what I'm saying? Like, so and a lot of people have a lot of emotional issues where they can't even sleep without some kind of stimuli. And that's what you're doing. You're like kind of like distracting yourself from like feeling alone. So you're like, you got a podcast on or some sort of parasocial connection to the world to kind of distract yourself from trying to go to sleep.
all right. I gotta use the bathroom really quick. I'll be right back.
Maybe you have to use the bathroom. You could have had a catheter. You could have had a bottle. There's lots of solutions here, saying you're a guy. You figure it out. Or at least I wouldn't be able to do it as easily.
All right, we're back. We're back.
Hello, guys.
Hey, both got a bathroom break in.
Yeah, I hope you do leave the part in about the what I said just before you left.
Yeah, we'll leave that part in.
Nice, nice. I
All
hope that
right.
was funny for you guys.
Yeah. Let's just finish up. Let's do some finishing thoughts on this red pill thing, and then let's move on.
Sure,
Lee, you got anything else you want to say?
sure. I mean, I do want to talk about that in regards to the incel community. So
Okay. Well, that
whenever
that
you're
that
ready to
that'll
do
be
that.
our next topic. But I just want to say that
Okay.
like, uh, really judge people on the content of their character, not on their body count or what they've done in the past. Um, if they've got a high body count, they have a lot of experience. Probably, maybe they are more effective in bed. They're more
Mm,
experienced. That can be a good thing. It's all up to their character, right? Like,
right.
is someone who's a virgin not going to cheat? Is that a guarantee? No. Is it a guarantee that someone who has a high body count is going to cheat on you? No. There's no guarantees in this life. There's no guarantees when
Nope.
you go into any relationship. So just keep that in mind, and like, let's not judge each, each other like that, and let's not treat each other like cars, or compare and like use metaphors like that to talk about women or to talk about men either. It's a silly way to do things. We're all human beings. We're not cars or whatever else you want to say.
Yeah, man, you should go out there and get to know humans. Like, get to know people on a human level first, and sure you can be attracted to the humans, and it leads to something. But yeah, treat them as humans, man.
Treating people like other human beings also gives you a lot of confidence as well. If you realize that everybody's flawed and they have all the human failings that you know about because you have them as well, it's a lot easier to just talk to people. It's a lot easier to
Right.
approach women. It's a lot easier to get those sexual experiences, to have those opportunities, because you're just better at communicating when you look at people like people, rather than you're looking at them like a whatever metaphor, or thinking about their body count, or thinking about them like these red pill guys want you to think about them. It's harder for you to communicate effectively with people when you're thinking about them like that. It's better
Yeah.
if you could just think about them as a person.
Yeah, and the reality is like, sure, you might learn to get laid and you might sleep with some girls, but the thing is that you're gonna have to like pretend to not want real intimacy to get with those girls using those like push pull kind of way of thinking tactics and treating them in that negative way, right? Yeah, sure, you might get laid that way, but you're not gonna get that actual human connection. So you're gonna be really fucking lonely still. You're
Right.
actually gonna, because if you as soon as you care about having some kind of intimacy, all that masculine frame will fall apart, which is the problem, right? So like they don't want to show any kind of emotion. You know what I mean? Like fucking Andrew Tate, like I didn't cry, I was doing push-ups while tears rolled down my face, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, there's that like whole mentality of like we didn't get into this yet, but that women are just looking at you as like a provider and that type of thing, and you're just looking at them as like a baby machine. This is a very
100%.
silly way to think about world and relationships. Is like, women do not just think about men like a money machine, like an ATM, unless you're like, there are women who are out there who do look at men like that.
Yeah,
And if you're a person who treats women like a baby machine, and the only thing that's like good about you or that's interesting about you is your money, and you flaunt it, and really like work on that aspect of yourself alone, and like you're really into showing off and having those amazing things, those great things, the cars, the houses, and like watches and all that stuff, and showing it off, then that's the type of woman you're going to attract, and you're
exactly.
filling your world with people who you expect. These are the people that uh you're attracting, right? This is it's a self-perpetuating cycle, like you said.
Yeah, and like furthermore, like I would even go to the point of wi- it's kind of a complicated issue. I did have like a really good thing, something to say, and I lost the exact train of thought. I'm just trying to like regather that train of thought. ADHD brain. Um, You were saying about like the communication thing with
Mhm.
like when- if you're going to go out into the world and all you're going to care about, like these ideologies might dictate you that all you got to do is go out there and grind money, be a grinder, like basically turn money into your god essentially, right? And you wonder why the gold diggers are at your door.
Right.
Like it's crazy. And then furthermore, the reason why the gold diggers are at your door is because that's all the value you have to provide. You haven't got any kind of emotional intelligence, anything else going on that any real woman would even remotely give you the time of day.
Real woman is in like someone who's well-rounded. You know what I mean? Someone
Exactly.
who's a person who's not like just looking for money, right? Someone who's the thing is these guys, these guys who are pushing this red pill narrative are saying that all women are like that. That's because all women that they know are like that. That's because that's what surrounds them. That's how that's what they see every day on a daily basis. That's just not the reality of a large, vast percentage of women. That they're not thinking like that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Not at all.
it's quite silly, guys. It's quite crazy. Um, let's move on. Let's go to the the incel conversation here. Let's talk about that topic instead now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like a segue from the red pill stuff, I guess. Is kind of where I wanted to get into it. Um,
These are the
like,
customers of the red pill, right? For the most part, a lot of them. I mean,
yeah,
I would want to say that everybody who watches red pill stuff is an incel. It's just
right, right,
kind
right.
of like it's really their target audience for who they can sell the most shit
It's
to,
just upset.
right? The
It's
people
just upset
who
of the red.
are the most they have the most to gain, the most to lose, or the least to lose, the most to gain by following somebody and trying to like change their life, right? They're looking for a
Right.
change because they can't figure things out, so they're the ones who are shelling out the most to the people who are like Andrew Tate or like this fresh and fit or whatever.
Yeah, but they're going to build like false confidence. That's what they're doing. They're putting on a social mask of like, yeah, big masculine frame, yeah. And but the reality is, they're going to do those things. They're going to go to the gym. They're going to get in shape. They're going to feel good about themselves, and they're going to let's get some shit done. They're going to go grind some money. Yeah, sure. But the reality is, a lot of those guys, like the from the red pill angle, like they got ones that are even pretty buff and like look pretty good. They're still insecure under that. And the issue is that a lot of women can see that. A lot of women that are more astute and like a bit more well-rounded and like kind of been around the block a little bit, so kind of know what to look for. They're going to see through those kinds of guys because they can see that it's a thin exterior. You look good, and but you don't seem good in yourself. You don't seem comfortable with yourself. There's no like actual self-love or self-esteem beyond that. It's just you've got this aesthetic going on. You've got some qualities going on to try and build your value, but you're still looking at the world from the exterior view only. There's no inner connection. There's no the inner world and the outer world aren't coming together, and there's no like the separation of mind and society or heart and whatever you want to call it.
It's uh it's a funny metaphor as well as like if you're a scam business, if you're a business that doesn't really have anything going on and you're just trying to scam someone else out of their money or another business out of their money, who are you gonna go for? Are you gonna go for, uh, you know, experienced investors, or are you gonna go for people who have no experience? They're like just out of high school. They don't know what they're doing. They just have some money and they just have no idea. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
this is the kind of counter metaphor is like this is what these guys are doing is they're going after women who have zero experience, who are virgins, who just don't know anything, because they know what they're selling is just crap to any girl who knows what they're looking at. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly that. And it won't work. Like a lot of the females, they're wise to it. They've seen the red pill content. They know the angles. They know the strategies. they might like play along a little bit, but the girls that are actually like we're talking about, the well-rounded girls, that are a bit more like down to earth, secure attachment style, not easily manipulated kind of type, like yeah, they're going to see right through that, and they've consumed the content. Not all of them, but some of them, they're very well aware of all the tactics and how they actually strategize in like securing the girls. So it won't be enough of them. You won't get good quality women that way.
No, and let's talk about the guys who are trying to get good quality women. Let's talk about the incels, man. Like they
Yeah,
are being directed.
crazy standards.
They're being directed towards women who are at a low quality. Like they're being directed towards women who are not gonna make them happy and satisfied, but they need any sort of connection, right? They're like looking
Mm.
desperately for a connection, and they're being led towards it, like a very uh oblique, like blank type of connection that's not going to be satisfying.
No, it'll all be superficial and exterior in every sense of the word, because they also have to not let their emotions come out and totally maintain that frame so that they don't appear weak or whatever they believe. So it's like, yeah, they will never be able to have connection. It's not possible. Like they have to do that to get laid, and then they'll never open up. They'll never have any kind of intimacy. They'll never have any kind of like. They'll probably even feel alone. You know what I mean? Like even though they're with the girls, banging the girls, even if they're doing really well, they go to the gym a lot, and they got some money coming in. Even if they're doing well in that community, they're still going to be happy. But that's the problem, is that we're not even talking about those guys right now. We're talking about the incels, involuntary celibates. So that basically means that they want to get laid and they can't. Like they desperately can't get laid. But here's the problem: it's not like they're the simps where it's like they want to like chase after the girls and throw money at them and be like, please pick me. It's the opposite. It's like they have these crazy high standards. They're on like some of them on like dating apps like Tinder, like listing all the things on their profile that they expect the woman to be. Like, you got to be like hot, you got to be funny, you got to be this, you got to be that, you got to be this. And on one hand, you could argue that the guy's trying to say what he wants, but it's crazy high standards, and he's not going to be all that. There's no way he's going to even remotely like be able to match that value in the woman for a start, right? So there's no way he'd ever probably get that. So he's setting himself up to fail just on that alone. And furthermore, he's not said like anything about him in that. He's not trying to like sell himself. He's literally just demanding these things, a sense of entitlement. So not only is he not getting the women, he feels like he's entitled to the women. This is where the problem comes from.
It's kind of what you're explaining is kind of like the opposite, the opposite to these street interviews where the women, they ask like, "Oh, how much money do you think your husband should make?" And they're
Mm.
saying like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I'm
he's
flipping it.
at least 500,000." Some, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
I'm doing what that debater Zizek does. You know Zizek, the guy that like he's got like a really deep lisp kind of way of talking, and he's a Marxist. Anyway, that's what he does. He like flips everything. Or he's good at flipping subjects. That's kind of like what I sometimes do. I'll flip it on them. I'll like take that angle and show the other side.
fucking Marxists, man. What the hell? It's
Mm.
just like the red pill, dude. Like Karl Marx, he wrote this great book about how capitalism is broken and made a lot of good points about the society and how capitalism ruins lives and how bad it is. And
Yeah,
then and it made a lot of really really good points. It really opened a lot of people's eyes. And then
yeah.
the prescription of communism is just garbage, and it ruins everybody's life.
Well,
It's kind of like red pill.
you should be asking questions when the majority of the argument is just tearing down the other ideology, right?
Yes, yes.
So
So that's what we're saying. That's the red pill thing, is like their entire thing is about tearing down the left and tearing down the ideas and the preconceived notions, and it's like,
and dismissing
and
them all as
the
one thing.
culture, right? The culture that's been popping up, and like, yeah, that's good. I like that. I really like that. I understand why people like that. I like watching it. I honestly do like a lot of what they're saying, what they're asking, but the prescription is cringe. It is so cringe. It's
Mm.
so bad. It is actually harming the people, like people who are incels who can't find someone who even if you're not like a full on incel, like you can't. I'm not saying, or even if you can get laid, you know what I mean. But you're having a really hard time making like a meaningful connection with a
Right.
woman to where you'd actually want to get with them, and like the guys are having this problem all over where they're sleeping with random women. They're not happy with their relationships. They're just like kind of stoked that they're getting laid, but they're not, really enjoying actually being with the women. And then they accidentally get one of them pregnant, and now they're locked in. You know what I mean? And they end up with a
Mhm.
divorce and a terrible situation with, child payments and stuff like that. Like you got to avoid that as much as possible if you can. People who are like actual incels who can't get laid are sometimes in a better position than these guys who can get laid, but they can't find emotional connection. But both of them have the same problem. You know what I mean? Both of them
Yeah.
are in a weird mentality, in a weird mindset where they're like, you know, not able to actually get those proper connections.
Yeah, there's two separate subsets within those communities, obviously, but the problem is that there's so much overlap. It comes from the same catalyst, it's same thing, different packaging, and I don't know, man. Like on the one hand, I want to empathize a little bit. I want to try and like think of angles and talk about men's issues a little bit as well going forward. But first, yeah, because I mean, there's a multifaceted thing that's happening here. It's not like these things are isolated incidents. Like it's like a crystal, and like every side of the crystal is like a whole new thing, but it's all still part of the same crystal. And there's so many things I think we have to kind of dive into a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's so much interconnectedness with these issues. The red pilled incel, like men's issues. Um, I mean, we're men. We're gonna talk about men's issues, of course, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's all interconnected. Like women's issues, the women's movement towards equality, and like even in some cases, like more than equality, like more than their like
exactly.
original idea of feminism and equality. It's like all of that is connected to each other, and it's really wreaking havoc, especially in this country where I live right now. Like it's maybe not even about the like feminism movement, but just about equality in general, like having women in the
Mm,
workplace. And like in Japan, it's so brutal, the cultural um pressures here, and the pressure of having multiple incomes, and then the lack of like actual intimacy, and the lack of humans being produced here is kind of ridiculous. It's off the charts, and it's all
yeah.
connected to these things. And like it's actually like a window into the future, I think, for a lot of Western countries, is what's kind of happening here. Like it things are really falling apart in terms of intimacy and connection, belonging, and reproduction.
Yeah, and it's going more that way. I mean, we could briefly say about like Korea, for example. I mean, I can't remember the exact study, but it was something to the effect of like by 2700, they're not doing so well in terms of like how many of them they're left. So in terms of
Mm.
their actual like native population. Yeah, it's crazy how bad some of it is, and I think Elon Musk also talked about how like there's this like there's no such thing as overpopulation. There's actually like a problem that we're not having enough kids, and that the next generations of people will not physically be able to replace the previous generations. So you'll have like a huge elderly population that needs to be taken care of, and not enough people actually keeping society flowing.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot in a lot of different ways. It's very disturbing, and I thought that it was really interesting to hear from Elon. That was one of the things that I'd heard about it. I thought about it a little bit, but hearing Elon say like we have an underpopulation problem, um, whereas there's so many voices out there saying that we have an overpopulation problem. And there's not enough resources. There's not enough this. There's not enough that. Like there's been people sounding that alarm for hundreds of years.
Right, right.
Hundreds of years, like in the 1800s, they were talking about overpopulation and how there wasn't going to be enough food to feed everybody, and we're like 10x the number of people at this point. and there's still enough food for everybody's fine. It's very strange.
Pretty fun.
I mean, yeah, obviously everything's not totally fine. There's a lot of like environmental issues that are going on. Um, there's a lot of weird like externalities to having a huge population, but the world is a lot bigger than people think.
Mm.
The world is really, really, really big, and you get that sense when you
Well,
are born and raised in Canada, man. In Canada, you realize that everybody in the entire country lives on like 3% of the land or something like that. It's kind of wild.
yeah, as a little go back to what we were talking about ages ago. I also think like technology plays a role in that because there's so much interconnectedness with the technology that you kind of get a feel that things are smaller than they actually are. Like if you're just playing a game with some guy from Australia, but you're in the UK, like
Mm,
you kind of like start to like not feel as far from each other because like, it's kind of becomes normal for you. It's like as you've grown up, especially the newer generations, that's all they've known. Like you know what I mean? Like
hmm.
I grew up with like 56K modems, you know what I mean, playing on MS-DOS, so it's like a little bit different, you know, for me.
Right.
It's not. So I kind of saw the transition a little bit more, and yeah, I think that the kids coming up now, I think, oh man, the iPad kids, you know, the kids in the restaurants that like, if they don't get their way, they're like throwing tantrums and stuff because they're like
Hmm.
stuck to because their parents are the iPads. You know, what I mean, the parents just gives to the kid the iPad, and that's the parent for the. You know what I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like minimize, by the way, what I was saying, that there's like environmental issues and things are bad in a lot of places. Like obviously there's a lot of problems with plastic. There's a lot of problems with like dumping and all kinds of oil and gas. There's a lot of different problems with all that shit. And the world's not big enough to handle, like every single thing that we're doing, damaging the world obviously it has an impact and it is serious. But I
Right.
think that like the way forward is not reduce the population, have less people, and like go backwards in technology and science and that type of thing. We need to like progress forward because each innovation is going to help us to understand more about our impact and find ways to reduce our impact on the planet. And like progressing in technology can only happen if we have a strong economy, strong minds, and fresh students, fresh young people coming up who are hungry for and to make those innovations, to do that science, to like progress the world, right? And
Mm.
that's the only real way forward, I think. Like if we weren't progressing, we would just be polluting in the same way for hundreds of years. But we're like progressively changing, from coal to gas to nuclear power and on and on and on, right? Like there's different levels of technology, and each level has like a different impact on the environment. But we have to keep moving
Yeah.
forward. We can't just like sit in making coal power forever, because that's just gonna really pollute the shit of one specific area. You know what I'm This is a weird concept, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and thinking of coal power, wasn't there like I think they got these more like up and coming countries like India and stuff. I think they're still using quite a lot of like relying quite heavily on coal and stuff. And now like people are like pointing the finger at them, saying like, "Hey, you can't use coal to get your stuff going." But the reality is that how did we do it for like
Mm.
beyond the industrial revolution? You know, what I mean, that's what we were doing. Like, so all these countries have done like kind of find a cheap, dirty thing to get you off the ground, and then trying to clean you up your act afterwards. You know what I mean?
Well, the cleanest thing to go for is nuclear power, right? If we can go to nuclear power for a lot of our electricity, it's great. It's the best
Yeah.
that we have. But um
Well, fusion would be ideal, but I mean that's a little bit away.
it's a little ways away, but maybe not as far away as we think, but it's still on the horizon.
Probably
um
like 20, 30, maybe. Who knows?
who knows, but like the problem with nuclear is that if we're not if Western countries aren't developing it and making it safer and more better, stronger, uh, more disaster proof, that type of thing, then a lot of these other countries like China and other, India or whatever, are going to build like older style nuclear power plants that are maybe not
Mm.
as safe and could cause like huge
Like
disasters. I
Chernobyl.
feel like uh, as the Western countries really need to push for like advancement of nuclear technology, because it's not going away and it's really the best solution. It's really sad what's happened to it in Japan. If you've heard about it, is after the Fukushima nuclear
Right.
disaster, they just gave up on it. They just like, well, we're not doing that anymore, and they just shut down, most of the nuclear power plants, and it's like really messed up their economy a lot, because they relied on that super heavily, and now they have to rely on like a lot of imports of different fuels
Right.
to make the same amount of electricity what they were making before. And the problem with the Fukushima plant was not that it's a nuclear power. The problem is that it wasn't properly uh, taken care of. It wasn't properly like prepared for any sort of event, or any sort of like catastrophic earthquake, or anything like that, or tsunami, right? Like
Right.
they had some backup measures in place, but they really didn't have like a clear one, and there was a lot of like safety violations that were going on that just weren't being taken care of in the nuclear power plant. You can read all about the Fukushima disaster, but there's one thing that's very clear. There's a lot of corruption around it, and there was like clear, oversights, and not like clear thinking when it came to actually, securing the facility, which can definitely be upgraded and changed. And but let's like think ahead a little bit here, and we shouldn't have these type of disasters.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from the people that are anti-nuclear, from their angle, they're thinking it as like, yeah, but humans are gonna make mistakes, and it's like only a matter of time before like some corruption or like some, you know, like in the Chernobyl, like bad decision making and like dealing with the situation, maybe egoism coming in the way of making good decisions, whatever. Like
Sure.
you can make that argument where it's like eventually relying on humans, something's going to go wrong, and with something that dangerous, it's like not worth it. That's their angle, probably, right?
Right, I understand the angle. The danger aspect, I think, has been overblown. You can look at Fukushima as an example. Like, zero people died from the Fukushima disaster. There's no recorded cases of people dying directly from that. So there's like that fear aspect, but I think that the real fear should be like other countries that have like these older style reactors. They're being built all over the
Mm,
place in China and other places. We need to like we need to move towards it, and make it secure. You know what I mean? The the fear should drive more safety, not a
right.
complete abandonment of the project. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, rockets are not safe either. You know what I mean? Rockets flying into space are not safe.
Nothing's
But
safe, Stan. I can't walk out my front door without risk getting run over or struck by lightning. I'm sure it might be a low chance, but still a risk, right?
there's inherent risk in just about everything that we do, right? But
Yeah.
the fear should drive safety. It shouldn't drive abandonment of progress, you know? That's regressive thinking. That's yeah, it's unfortunate that that's the way that people, want to react to the, massive uh catastrophe that was Fukushima. They just want to abandon the entire project. It's not good.
Maybe it's an optics thing. They just like don't want to be known as like the ones that polluted the world, and they don't want to like have enough something like that happen again. They're just really worried about being seen in that light, like being like tainting their entire world image. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I mean, that's propaganda as well, right? Like, it's
yeah,
it's it's an opening for propaganda to attack them, but it is in the end propaganda. Like, there's all this talk about how the treated water is being released into the ocean now in Fukushima. but again, it is treated, and it was, sanctioned by the UN, um, and environmental protection agencies. They know the levels of tritium and stuff like that are very within acceptable ranges, and the people who are complaining about it, mostly the Chinese who are really upset about it, they know that like their own nuclear power plants release way more tritium into the ocean on a daily basis than the Fukushima power plant ever will. It's yeah. They're releasing way more, and they didn't even have a nuclear disaster. It's just like mismanagement and pollution, like pumping water from the nuclear reactors into the ocean, and then blaming, or really like getting on uh the bandwagon of getting after Japan for their release. Anyway, it's a very complicated issue, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole nuclear thing, though, it does relate back to like the population issue that we were talking about, and that relates to incels, which relates to red pill. You can see how these things are all connected.
It's all connected, guys. The Matrix is between your ears. That's the Matrix that these so-called red pillars are trying to escape, hence called the Red Pill after the film Matrix. The Morpheus scene where he's like, you got two pills. What's interesting about that scene is like, in a way, I feel like Morpheus lies because he says to Neo, he says, well, "Remember, all I'm offering you is the truth." That's not even close to what's happening there. He's not just giving him the truth because the truth could be he tells you, and he says that later where he shows the farms like no one would. You have to see the farms to really get it, kind of thing. And it's like, well, yeah, but you still could like give him the truth without like forcing him down that rabbit hole. Like, you actually are doing a lot more than just giving him the truth in the arc of that film. You know what I mean?
I watched a
And I think that's
great
kind of
breakdown of the Matrix recently, and yeah, there's a
oh yeah.
lot of really interesting.
Like what? Give me some points. Give me some points quick.
Well, there was. I'm trying to remember exactly what he was talking about, but the reflection in his glasses, when
The
Neo
one
was
pill was red, and one yeah,
yeah,
two
when
hands,
Neo was
one each.
right, and Neo was going to take the pill. In one reflection, his hand was up, and in the other reflection, Neo's hand was down, and it was like I can't remember what it was symbolizing, but it was like the director's way of showing like the lack of actual decision making, or something like the
Hmm.
fated decision. You know what I mean? Like,
The fatalism of it,
yeah,
yeah,
the fatalism, or like the lack of actual choice. Where he was giving him the choice, but he wasn't
yeah.
actually giving him the choice. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's the thing. That's exactly what's my angle. Yeah, he's also saying he's yeah. The whole thing is like crazy. What Morpheus isn't that the god of dreams as well? Wait, is that right? No, no.
Might
Wait,
be. You can look it up.
is that Nostradamus or is that the? I don't know. Anyway, um, yeah, man, the Matrix is so interesting. Like, you could even go into like how when they're outside of the when they're outside the Matrix, you can even argue that's like another layer to the Matrix. You know what I mean? Like, they're still in the controlled Matrix. It's just that's another layer of Matrix for the people that are like a little bit harder to deal with. You know what I mean?
That's kind of what they were hinting at, right? Is that the whole, like, the architect was saying that the whole of the Matrix um is like the regular program, and that it was too perfect before, and people would like get
Yeah,
out of it, so they
utopian.
needed to like set up like a matrix with that's difficult and hard, and like, so people will accept it, but there's always some that don't accept it, and they go to what's it called, what's the name of the city, the human city outside of the matrix.
Oh, Zion.
Zion, right? They have to set up Zion, and then there's the one who will reset the matrix, right? And like the whole cycle
Next
starts
version,
over
yeah.
again. And it's like,
Next
okay,
version.
well, if that's all true, then what makes you think that that's the real human world? Or is that just what the people who won't accept the matrix will accept as the real world? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's like, okay, now this makes sense. Like, I I'm like not accepting the human brain. They're not accepting the real world or the matrix, so they will accept like the suffering and hard harsh reality of the outside of the matrix, you know what I mean? And then but that's all just
Exactly.
another layer, right?
They
That's
don't
all been
realize that's what's
controlled.
happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's layers upon layers, yeah.
Yeah, that's a mind
Um
fuck. That's a mind fuck right there.
It certainly is. You can even maybe argue that like Morpheus, like is like the male version of the Oracle. Like he's part of that Matrix system. He's the one that's making sure those fatalism things are occurring. Do you remember the scene? I think it was the second Matrix film where they go to the Mirror da Vinci, or whatever, and afterwards, so they don't get what they want. But as they're walking out, he's like, what happened? He goes like, why didn't it work? Something like, and Morpheus
One of
says,
my
whatever
favorite
happened,
lines. Yeah, one of my
yeah,
favorite lines.
whatever happened happened. It couldn't have happened any other way, and because we were
Mm.
still alive.
Yeah, that's a great line. I love that line. I say that line a lot actually to myself and to my wife
Mm,
when things happen, when things bad things happen sometimes too. Like what happened happened
right.
and couldn't have happened any other way. Like when I got in a car accident, when I got hit by a car riding my motorcycle and I survived, like, you know,
Hmm.
that's such a shitty thing that happened to you. And I said, what happened
What about
happened,
the
couldn't
other
have
way?
happened any other way. Why? Because I'm still alive, you know?
That's
That's
made me who I am today.
exactly because I'm still alive. That's how it happened. So yeah, I think that that's a great line. That's one of the best lines in the Matrix. And when I wanted to say, oh, the Matrix, like the last uh episode, like the third movie, when he's in the Matrix, but he's actually like, or when he's outside of the Matrix, but he's controlling things kind of like he's in the Matrix. You know
When
what I mean?
he's
He's kind
yeah,
of like
like when he's
bending
doing like
reality and
the
shit.
yeah, exactly.
I
He's kind
was
of got Matrix powers outside the so-called
I was
outside of
like,
the
that's
Matrix.
such a tell that he's still inside
Yeah.
the Matrix. You know what I mean? That is a tell.
Hmm.
And I never even watched the fourth movie. I think there's a fourth movie out now, right? Like that came out a while ago.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah.
I was like, man, that I heard about it. I heard it wasn't that good. I didn't watch it. But I was like, man, that's such a missed opportunity to make another Matrix movie where that was like another level. You know what I mean? Like they get outside of
Hmm.
even that. Like they figure out that, oh shit, this is actually still the Matrix. And
Yeah.
move on. Like imagine if they defeated the bots, right? They have that like big clash and the movie ends and then like what happens after the movie? They're like living in that wasteland, right? Or what exactly happens? How does it work? What's the follow-up? And then they realize, they're living their life in like a nice way and they realize like, wait a second, something's wrong, and they go like deeper, you know what I mean? They go to the next level.
Hmm.
They find a way out of the matrix inside the
Right.
matrix, you know? Like that would be really interesting. That would be truly a good movie, but they just did something weird, didn't they? I don't know what they did.
Yeah, do you want me to talk? Are you gonna watch the movie? Do you want to know? I can give you a quick give you one or two things about the movie if
Nah,
you
it's
want, or I
okay.
can just not talk about it.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, all right, fair. That's probably best.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity, guys. They should have done something like
Yeah,
that where they follow up with like a deeper level of reality. Would have been cool.
yeah.
They
I mean,
queued
there's
it
lots of
up.
missed opportunities with creative writing,
They queued it up. They queued it up very nicely. They had all the hints there, you know what I mean?
and then they like went to take their shot, and the cue ball went off the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or they thought that it would be too like complicated for the audience or something like that. Like think about
They usually do dumb things
it,
down.
one of the things from the videos that I've
I
watched
know
on
what you're gonna
YouTube
say.
about it is that
I know what
appar-
you're gonna say.
apparently the human beings were not used as batteries in the
Yeah,
original
there was
Matrix.
originally it was going to be like a hive mind consciousness type thing, and
Yeah.
like they dumbed it down and made it the battery thing to kind of make it an easier translation for the audience.
Yeah, so that people wouldn't be confused about like what do they mean like a neural net? You know what I mean? A neural net between all
Hmm.
the different brains of all the human beings connected to
Which
the
actually makes more
matrix.
sense because it's literally then your brain is the matrix. You're creating the matrix controlling you, but you're creating the control of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Exactly.
are. Yeah.
It's very like metaphorical and it makes more sense like technologically speaking that the brain has so many different connections. It would be useful to
And it
a sentient computer to like use for computing power. You know what I mean? Rather
right.
than rather than actual electrical power, which doesn't make any sense. A human being definitely takes more power to run than it does to, you know,
Yeah,
than it
and it
actually
also
exerts.
lines up with objective reality in the sense that the individual points within that network, they're the subjective realities, the individual points of consciousness. Then you've got the whole actual reality, which is that hive mind consciousness.
They could have weaved that all into the new movie, man. They could have said like, no, you
Nah,
know,
of course they can't.
it's actually a neural net, and like they go to the next level, and it's all of them connected to the neural net rather than as a
Wouldn't it be even
battery. Like
crazier?
the
What if
battery
it was even
narrative
crazier?
was just part of the second level of the Matrix.
Wait. What if I even go take it one step further and say like every single person is the one in their own matrix, and every single person has their own matrix, and it's all so it's like the multiverse thing where like every person is a matrix, but they're all connected to another matrix, and that's the overall matrix that's controlling those layers of matrices. Make
bro
sense?
bro, we should write a movie. We should write a Matrix movie. Like imagine Neo after the a fight, and they go back to Zion or whatever, victorious,
Yeah.
and they realize like, wait a second, I've been doing some calculations. The amount of electricity produced by the human body is less than it would take to actually make, to keep people alive. This doesn't
They've
make
got such
sense.
powerful
And then
biological computers.
they realize that they're in a matrix. And they have to go deeper. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is all like a control program. Oh man, that would be insane.
Imagine if that's what reality is. I mean, I don't mean the Matrix. Imagine if that's our reality, where like we are kind of in a similar type thing, where we're like data simulators within this Matrix. I don't know.
I mean, that's what that's what they're trying to get you to think, right? They're trying to
Mm.
get you to question your own reality. That's the point of the whole movie from the
Which is
director's
why it was
perspective.
which is why it's so impactful and like groundbreaking, and why it's like a lot of people's favorite film. Like same with Fight Club, right? It's like changes your way of thinking or looking at the world, or has some kind of lasting impact on your life in some way, shape, or form. It's like that's what good art does, right? It elicits a response, but if you can elicit a response and also leave like a lasting imprint of a response, that's powerful.
Powerful, very powerful. Yeah, art is so powerful. It's these are the best movies in the world. You're right. The movies that can like really impact you. But I mean, the most
Otherwise, it's just
impactful thing.
entertainment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not art then; it's just entertainment. Otherwise.
Yeah, the most impactful thing is StarCraft, man. Like that's the most impactful art ever for us, anyway.
There you go. And it's not just that, but you can think of the players as artists. It's like they've been given like imagine this. Imagine you go to hell and like you're a famous painter like Bob Ross or something. And hell is painting, but he's got such crazy complicated equipment. Like, none of the paintbrushes are even straight. You know what I mean? Like really awkward to use equipment. Something out of a fever dream. And you got to paint. That's kind of like StarCraft. You got these awkward tools. The units are janky. The pathing of the units and stuff like everything's crazy hard to use, but yet we're still able to create these. Some people are still able to create masterpieces with those shoddy tools, like a good craftsman never blames his tool type deal, right? It's kind of like what we're doing in StarCraft. If you think about it, we're like it's like a sense of artistry where we're like using weird implements to create interesting experiences.
Oh man, it really makes me think about the ASL. I don't want to spoil anything, but good God. Yeah, there were
Don't
some
spoil.
crazy, crazy, beautiful games that came out recently.
There's so many people that just like muted their thing or like paused it. It's like no, no,
Don't tell me.
no.
People are so like butthurt about about spoilers sometimes. Like I've got people sending me literally the people who make it through or get eliminated in a DM. Like that's a real spoiler. Like it's annoying to me when people say like, "Oh, don't even tell me who qualified. That's a spoiler." Like, dude, come on. Let's be real here. Like let's act like a real human person. It's crazy that they get mad about telling
Well,
someone who qualified for the
it's
ASL.
interesting you say that because it circles back to the subjective reality and reality thinks everyone's got their own truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the sense of like how they see the world, what they think is right, what they think is wrong, the morals they live by, their values, like cause all kinds of problems. Because if you believe that people should act a certain way and then you project that outwards into the world, so you actually do expect them to behave a certain way, you kind of set yourself to disappointment because like humans will always disappoint you. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that angle at all.
No, I think that really the problem with spoilers is that it removes your ability to enjoy the thing that you want to see, right? Like if someone tells you, Snape killed Dumbledore or something like that, like, oh, now I can't read that book. You know
That's
what I
so
mean?
weird you said that because the one that I thought of was people shouting out of the car as they drove past people out in the line to the Harry Potter book
Yeah,
saying like the Dumbledore thing.
yeah,
I was picturing that.
yeah,
I was picturing Dumbledore dies, them shouting out Dumbledore's. That's all I was picturing, that they were shouting out the window, Dumbledore dies. That's all I could think of when you said that every
yeah.
other thing. Wow, it's fucking
It's
crazy. You also went there.
it's like a mean thing to do. It's rude. It's not nice. But telling who is going to be in the ASL is like that's not going to remove your ability to enjoy it. Like if you're just going to watch the ASL, it's removing your surprise for like the first quarter of a second at the beginning, like, oh, who's it going to be today, and then you get to see who it is. Like, oh god,
Yeah,
wow, that's shocking that Snow made it into the
really.
ASL. Wow.
Really
Uh-huh.
what it is like it's like say they get dealt a card, and what's happening is you're flipping over the card. They're like, no, I want to flip the card over. That's what it really is.
But they didn't. But the game hasn't even started. Like,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like okay, like chill. Like, we're just what are
let's
we doing here? Like,
relax.
let's chill. Like,
You could
we're gonna get dealt some cards in a minute.
you could still enjoy the game. Like,
Yeah,
you
just
don't
chill, just
know
chill.
how it's gonna end. You just know what cards are being dealt at the beginning.
There's
Like,
a five of hearts in that deck. It's like, yeah. Usually, yeah, there usually is. There usually is.
usually, yeah,
Unless it gets burned, or like you can like hold them, Texas Hold'em, they like burn a card, don't they? So some of them actually get used for that round or whatever. But yeah, they're still in the deck technically.
yeah. Strange, strange. What
What
people
can
get
you
mad
do?
about. But people are always mad on the internet, man. People are always mad about
Well,
something.
yeah, and a lot of people they come from a lot of places. Sometimes it comes from they're not happy in their lives, or they've got nothing else going on, and it's like the Twitter thing. People like going on there and being like militants about any given subject. Really, they've got nothing else more interesting to do. You know, they make that their whole personality.
Yeah, well, maybe not their whole personality, but they make it like their whole day to like make that
Yeah,
comment.
I
Yeah.
would argue it's become a big part of their personality, though, if they're doing it that much.
Right.
Same way as like Starcraft's kind of part of our personality, the amount of time we spend it. But I guess you could argue it's a lot more healthy what we're doing.
Yeah. Then just leaving a mean comment or like just a dumb comment. So many dumb comments, man. It's crazy. I get you were telling me of this earlier, and I've been thinking about it a lot. Is like just not responding to comments at all anymore. Maybe it's
Right,
almost
right.
time. It's almost that time.
I think
We're
so.
not quite there yet, but I think we're getting pretty close. It's just about time to like
Yeah.
let it all go.
Oh,
Not
it's funny you say that. It's really funny you say that because I was envisioning somewhere between like 5 and 10K subs is probably when you're going to realize, like, okay, I need to change how I interact now. Maybe do still some commenting a little bit here and there, but not necessarily engage with all like the toxicity and read too much of it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's like one or two authentic comments you want to engage with here and there as you go, but generally speaking, try and avoid it, you know?
I've been really liberal with like or conservative. I don't know what you say, like very not interested in deleting comments. Like I haven't really deleted any comments, but
I like that.
there
I
are
appreciate that.
there are tools that you can use that can make your life better online. And I recommend that other people use them. Maybe I should start using them myself. Like for example, my wife has a yoga YouTube channel, and people will come in and just post about how she has a nice ass or something like that. And it's
Right.
like, okay, well, those comments are gonna like kind of tear you down, right? Like I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to make a yoga video. Like I'm trying to make
Yeah,
something, and
there's more
you're
value in this video than my ass here, guys. You know.
right. You're actively making me feel bad by just like completely ignoring the content and only looking at my ass. So I tell her to just like hide this person from my comments. You know what I mean? And you can just click the hide button. You can click
Mhm.
that button, and anything they ever say, they can still type a comment, but it'll never appear on your videos anymore. Like that, it will
Yeah,
just
it's like a
automatically
ghost ban
ghost.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it'll automatically ghost their comment. Their comment just goes to the the waste bin. They can still see their comment, but nobody else can see it, and you can't see it either. So
Right.
yeah, it's like a really nice tool for people for getting rid of people who are just toxic, and I might start doing that as
Yeah.
well. Like I haven't done it in the past, but I'm starting to think about it. Some of the comments are so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. Like, did you remember that big thread that you had in the most recent KCM
Sure,
video, like a 20 line? I don't know how long it was.
sure.
It's lots of comments on it. Anyway, I put some dumb thing at the bottom of it as well. I don't know if you read it, but
I did. I did read it.
yeah, it's that's not too bad. Obviously, sometimes you get like really toxic stuff. Like in that case, it was like feedback, just maybe delivered in a little bit of an unhinged way, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Did you see
Um,
his other comment? The that guy,
go on.
same guy. He said that just just FYI or just for your information, um you should probably think about buying a microphone that is oh, he said like, "Oh, that's so sweet. You should probably think about buying a microphone that's not a gaming headset. Like go for something that's like two separate." Like, bro, the fuck are
Mm,
you why are you telling us this? Like you think that we're buying a microphone like we're buying a gaming headset? Like what the fuck? It just seemed it's like you're almost like talking down to me, but almost in a way that's like, are you just dumb, or are you actually serious, or are you just talking down to me? Like I don't know what the angle is. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like
yeah,
I don't even want to respond to this because it's like I'm probably gonna take it the wrong way in a way that he's not intending it to, but it's just a really stupid, dumb comment to say. Like of course, we're not gonna buy a gaming headset. Like, what the fuck? Like, that is the most basic thing. Like, you've literally got a gaming headset. It's like,
do you know what it is?
go
It's
ahead.
literally that thing. It's a Dunning Kruger effect, right? It's where
Mm,
you know like a tiny bit about something, and you suddenly start to think you know everything about something, and you
right.
act like that. Like imagine if I thought I knew everything about Starcraft, and whenever someone said something I didn't know or agree with, I was like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," if I had that attitude, you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
that's always like, oh, it's like an armchair general, they're coming in and like through the lens that they've got everything figured out.
It's funny how some people will think that because we've got like a YouTube thing going, we've got like a YouTube show that we're like professionals, you know what I mean? Like we really know what we're doing. And then other
Yeah,
people will think that we're like basically, you know, complete noobs, like total like
yeah, amateurs,
teenagers
yeah.
in a basement, with no no experience at all.
Oh,
And it's
relative,
like we're in the middle, we're like on
somewhere
our
in the middle,
way to being sort of professional, but like
semi-pro.
it's funny that people will be totally on one spectrum or the other, or
That's
totally on
that's the
one
thing
side
of
of the
the left and
spectrum.
right, isn't it? It's like they can't look at anything from a nuanced lens. It's either one or zero, black or white, red or blue. It's just all that. It's crazy to me that that's like that's everyone's thinking. But it's because of the culture. Everyone's like they're not necessarily narcissistic. It's just that some people, we as humans, have a few like narcissistic traits and what have you, and some people end up like a little bit too much of that. And I think they can't see outside of themselves. So you can't see the forest from the trees, and they're so mindlessly self-indulged and entitled that they can't even look at things from a different lens.
Well, I mean, how do we change that? I don't think there's a lot of options
Therapy.
available to us. Therapy.
Oh, well, we could talk about therapy. I mean, there's some things I want to say about therapy, especially
Yeah,
as it relates to men's issues.
you did write down some stuff about therapy, so go ahead, tell us about therapy.
Tell us about therapy. Okay, guys, therapy. Let me tell you about therapy. You go in and you talk about your problems, and then you suddenly realize, hang on a minute, this person is financially incentivized to keep me unwell. Then you realize, damn, what do I do now? No, I'm just joking. Why am I? So yeah, men's issues. I think there's the biggest issue. Just to give a little bit of like credence to maybe like it's not all say the incel community. Like, let me give a bit of pushback on that and say maybe it's not all of their fault. There's not really a lot of support for men out there, and especially when it comes to things like therapy. I would argue it's like extremely female orientated in the sense that I would argue that men require a much more like side by side problem orientated communication styles, like sitting around a campfire or next to each other fishing or whatever it is, doesn't matter, like working on an engine together, and you're focused on this problem or threat or whatever it is, but at the same time you're able to, like, weave in whatever it is, like problems about your wife or something, and that's much more natural for men to communicate in that way, right? Whereas this therapy stuff is literally like face to face communication, and maybe no surprise that these guys aren't able to open up very much. It feels maybe a bit more awkward for them.
Yeah, maybe that's why something like AA is like very popular. You know, sitting around in a big group, just discussing problems and not like
Right.
directly confronting somebody or having like a one on one. But
Right.
I know a lot of people who are in a lot of people who are in therapy. I know um, family members who go to therapy regularly, and I don't know if it has the same effect on men as it has on women. It seems to have like some positive benefits, but I'm
I'm
not
sure there
sure.
is,
I'm not sure
but
how
I
much
would
is out
argue
there.
that not enough. Certainly not enough given the current mental health epidemic, you could argue, in the world right now, for men especially.
Yeah. So, and with the expensiveness, like how expensive it can be, to hire a mental health professional to give therapy, it's like being more and more uh, farmed out to people like Red Pill. The Red
Mhm.
Pill uh, therapists, basically, people who are going to tell you the way to live, tell you what you need to do to be, satisfied, to be happy, to get what you want. Um,
To be an improved incel, basically.
right. Whereas what therapy is meant to do is to like discuss your problem or to like think about your problems directly, and then you find out the proper solution. You know what I mean? Like the therapy is supposed to be like a lens to where you talk about what's going on with you, and then the therapist is supposed to ask you questions that sort of lead you towards you yourself figuring out what you need to do, because basically most of the time you know what you need to do. And I think that like a lot of that,
Yeah.
this is the reason why a lot of like psychotherapy, like psychotropic drugs, can be sort of like a therapy as well, like psilocybin and stuff like
Mhm.
that, where
100%.
you literally know what you need to do. You are the thing that's standing in your own way of being happy, and uh, whether it's by therapy or by taking these drugs, these mushrooms or whatever, you're gonna be like opening your own eyes and then realizing what you need to actually do, and then figuring out a way to do it.
Shall I don't know if you wanna talk about this kind of thing on the podcast too much, but should I talk about some of my experience with the Silly Simon stuff?
Go ahead.
Alright. So, I don't know how well versed our listeners are gonna be, so I'll maybe talk about it in as chill terms as I can. So, I've done quite a few psilocybin trips over the years, and most recently, about actually, oh, interesting, a month ago today, because today just ticked over past midnight. It's like 2:20 a.m. for me now. So literally a month ago today was my birthday, basically, and yeah, I did a monster dose. Like Terence McKenna would say, like 5 grams is considered a heroic dose. I did 10 grams of dried mushrooms on my birthday in a dark room and just meditated. And man, it was to say it was a life changing experience, but it's probably like not even cutting it. You know what I mean?
The reason why I'm not reacting really strongly to this is because I've already heard you've already talked to me about a bunch about that, but that's a ridiculous amount of
Yeah.
mushrooms to take, man. It's crazy. But we already talked about
But to be fair,
this.
I didn't just. To be fair though, I didn't just suddenly like start taking mushrooms, and the first dose was 10 grams. The first dose I ever took was 1 gram, just to kind of like get an idea of what it was, and maybe a little bit giggly, and like seeing a bit more vibrant colors, and maybe seeing a little bit of waviness in the room, kind of like almost like a liquidation of the room, where it like the outline of things is like much more fluid, and maybe like almost like it's like plastic wrapped or something. I don't know how to describe it. And then I've done slightly heavier doses since then, and I kind of moved up towards like 2 grams, and eventually we started hitting the more like mid-range doses. So I was a big dude though, so these doses actually aren't hitting me as much as someone else. Like, I mean, I'm like 200 plus pounds. At the time, I think I was even way heavier than that. I was like probably like 250 or 260 or something. So I was having to like have probably a slightly higher dose than other people to get the kind of similar effect. So I did start doing that. I started calculating by weight and then increasing my dosage based on that. So someone that I was doing it with maybe on 2 grams, and I'm like closer to 3 or whatever it was. And eventually I kept upping a dose. Blah, blah, blah. And I realized that the deeper I went, the more comfortable I was. Because basically it's like they're showing you, it's like the universe is, in a way, is going to make you afraid in some way. And that could be because of some unresolved trauma from your childhood or some insecurity or whatever. And you're going to be faced with that on the other side of the trip if you're not prepared. So it's all about setting your mindset before the trip. And before my big monster dose of like 10 grams, I did all that. I like kind of worked through everything I could possibly think of introspectively that might be an issue. Like all my like issues I had as a kid, things that I'm insecure about, or whatever. Like I just went into all of that shit. I just tried to unload it all, process it, and try and detach from it in terms of like letting it go in like a therapeutic way, right? Where you like let yourself feel the thing and then you try and let it go and try and detach from it too much. And did all that before the trip. And setting your mindset like that, and maybe even setting the intention of the trip. Like if your intention is to go and have a good time, just have like a party drug type deal, which you want to woo, listen to some music and whatever, you set that intention for the trip and you will get that kind of trip. Whereas if you are really solemn and you're like meditative and you're like going into introspection and stuff, that's the kind of thing you're going to get as well. But it's even further than that, even so much as the way I consume it is in a tea. And even just the flavor of tea, as in honey or lemon or like berry flavored tea, will change the trip. It's that like crazy how much something can influence a trip. Even when you listen to a song, it's like that song can like take over the entire room. It's almost like a stage opens up from like a fourth dimension and like you're inside this Mandela, and like I can't even begin to put it into like human words. The English words are just far too limiting to even begin to describe some of the stuff that this does to you. But it's almost like your brain is not necessarily rewired. It's almost like the wires will become detached for a second and you can like rewire them how you want. So you can kind of hack your own brain in a way. And sure, you can have bad experience doing this stuff, but reality is usually those bad trips are induced from you because you're like it's almost like it interfaces you with the universe where you like become the universe and you're able to ride the waves of that trip in any way you want, much like a surfer. But like the guy Adam Watts said, you can choose to swim, you can choose to just stay with the waves and let the waves carry you. You can choose to struggle against the waves, like you're anxious and you're scared and you fight against it, and it's going to tire you out and exhaust you, right? Or you can choose to even swim with the current and gain that momentum as well as your own faculties on top of that, and like really start to like dive deeper. And the more that you lose the fear and detach yourself from the anxiety of like, whoa, why am I having this crazy trip experience? So as long as you just be okay with that, accept everything, and just let go of that anxiety, the more you see, the more layers of the onion you can peel back, and the more that you're just like, show me more, show me more, show me more, the more you'll be shown. The less you're affected by it, the more you'll be shown. And it's almost like the universe is trying to bother you. Like, I need to see that, is this guy for real? It's like a Zen training thing. Like, how Zen are you? Because if you're not really Zen, you can't go to the next layer. But if you can keep showing that you're Zen as you go through the layers, you keep going. It's the best way I can explain it in layman's terms.
Well, go on. Tell us what you learned from this latest trip.
To be honest with you, I learned things that I don't want to share with people because it's like very personal to me. But there are some things I can talk about. So like I could talk about it more from like what the experience was like angle. So at one point in time, like I was in the trip like in the pitch blackness for so long, and that's actually really daunting because like it's almost like you're in an infinite void. And when you're in that kind of high dosage, you don't really feel gravity anymore. It's almost like you're like floating in like a vat of fluid, like almost like you're like an alien in like a test tube or something, but you're suspended in liquid. You know what I mean? You kind of like lose a sense of self entirely. Like the reality itself breaks down. There is no reality anymore. But after I did that crazy like long stint of being in the pitch blackness, a few hours into the trip, I knew that okay, now it's time to take control of the trip. Because one thing you can do with psilocybin is you can use a joystick, and I'm describing it that way. It's not other people do, but so for example, I use THC from weed from sativa strains as like a joystick to now like navigate around in that space once I've already gone deep as I can into it. So first I'm like diving down and down and down, letting myself sink to like as deep, close to the bottom of the ocean as I can. And as soon as I get as far deep as I can, I'm now going to go into my little submersible vehicle, which is the THC, the weed, the marijuana, and I'm going to like use that as like a car. And I'm going to drive around using that car because it when you take weed and psilocybin together, whoa, different kind of experience. And you can literally, it feels like you've stolen the devil's car and you can now choose to drive to heaven, but you've got to drive through 7 layers of hell to get there. And it's like the deeper you are rooted, like it's like building a like I think Jordan Peterson said this, like the further down the roots of the tree go down into hell, the further the branches can reach up to heaven. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It's kind of, you have to go really down deep into this crazy abyss to then kind of like launch yourself up to ascension.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. uh,
Maybe people that have taken heavier doses will have some idea what I'm talking about. I don't know.
I've taken like 3 grams, I think 4 grams maximum,
I
but I haven't
okay.
done it in pure darkness. So like
How heavy are you?
I'm
Or what
like
were you at the time? Sorry.
90 kilo.
Okay, so you're a little bit lighter than me. You're like 15 kilo lighter than me, roughly. Yeah, so I would say, I guess that's like that's still pretty high. I would say that's like that's still a high dose, right? It's not
Oh
like
yeah.
monster, but it's
I
still
mean,
pretty high. It's still pretty high.
you feel it for sure, and I got some really fantastic insight from it as well, and just like really deep connective feeling um when I was with my wife, and um yeah, I mean it was a great experience, fantastic experience. It's completely legal now in Canada, so you can buy it online. And it just gets delivered directly to your house. There's no problems whatsoever. You can take it whenever you want. This is like it's a beautiful time um for trippers, for people who are it feels a little bit like the 60s, right? It's obviously not
Hmm.
nothing in comparison, but it's like these things are all now kind of available, and we can all just
That was the
try
Wild
them if we
West
want.
though as well.
Yeah.
The issue with like tabs, acid, you never know you don't know what part of the sheet you're getting. So you might get like a corner of the sheet where like it's not that strong. You might get a corner of the sheet which is like crazy strong. You don't know what you're getting.
Right. Now it's a little bit more controlled. Um but it's definitely an experience that I would never take back. I think it's a great drug. I mean, there's a million
Yeah,
different types of drugs. There's caffeine, there's, tobacco, um there's obviously weed, all kinds of different crazy drugs that you can take, all kinds of different antidepressants, uh, you know, SSRIs and stuff like that that are available that you can get pretty easily by
yeah,
just going to the doctor. But I would definitely recommend, before you take any of those things, that you try a mushroom trip, because like a psilocybin, a low dose of psilocybin can really help you to, like you said, rewire your brain. Like it removes the connections, and it can help you to like realize what it is that you're doing to fuck up your life, and
right.
what you can do to unfuck your life. And it's generally a pretty simple solution that you've just been kind of ignoring, that's been at the side, at the periphery for a really long time, and you've just gotten so used to ignoring it and not thinking about it that you can't even like realize it anymore. Maybe you still realize it, but you think you can't do anything about it. And when you
Yeah,
take that trip and you kind of like feel that connection, and you think about your life in a really deep level, and you really like consider, you know, all about, what it is that's going wrong with you and what you can do better, you will realize that, like, oh, it's just that thing, that one thing that I was really fucking up, and I can do something about it, and I'm going to do something about
yeah.
it. It could completely
I would
change my
say
life.
and especially like at the lower doses, that stuff's really good. Like you don't need to go crazy high with the doses to do introspection. If anything, when you do the higher doses, you want the opposite. You want to do the introspection first to
Mm,
get all that taken care of, so it doesn't catch you up in the deeper stuff because
right.
it'll limit you and like it'll mess you up a bit.
Yeah, you'll get trapped in those thoughts. You want to like get
Yeah,
rid.
exactly.
You want to get rid of. Do the low dose. Realize what you're doing wrong. Fix those things, and then when you go into the deeper dose, you're not going to get trapped by
Exactly.
those thoughts. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I don't
Yeah,
know
do it in a healthy way, guys. Don't go crazy. Do not do it. Do not and don't just go out and do fucking 10 grams of shrooms because you heard Papa Jean do it. Okay, please, for the love of God, do not do that. I'm crazy. Okay, and like I did a lot of introspection and a lot of like trying to learn how to be a cosmonaut, so to speak, before I did that. I didn't just do that just for a laugh. I planned it out very meticulously to make sure it couldn't possibly, or at least very less likely to go wrong. You know what I mean?
Well, I bet you guys didn't expect to hear all of these topics discussed by two StarCraft casters when you heard that they were doing a podcast. But there you go. This is what you get.
This is what you
Uh,
get, boys.
what other topics do we have here, Shun? Are we just about ready to end this one
Uh, I mean, I'm not. Oh, you mean end this particular thing,
episode?
this
Yeah.
subject? I mean, up to you. Me
What?
personally,
Uh huh.
my brain gets going more the longer I go. So it's like I'd rather keep going, but it's up to you, man.
Well, give me another topic then, Shun. What do we got to talk about?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit more. I want to go circle back to the therapy stuff and just quickly like give it like an evolutionary perspective on the things I was talking about.
Sure.
So yeah, the thing I was talking about earlier, basically, I'm going to say about men evolving to work side by side, needing to keep their gaze focused on the problem or threat, and then not needing to do this face to face, dedicated verbal communication that like we were talking about earlier. But I'm also wanting to talk about how simple the solutions can be to that. It's not like I'm just going to sit here and like say, "Oh, by the way, this is how like messed up the world is." If I can, with my limited ape brain, I'm going to try and think of some simple solutions to things if I can. And I think there is. I think, like, let's say hypothetically, in a relationship, there's a husband and wife, and having some relationship issues, and she's screaming at him, and he's yelling at her, and they're like fists balled in each other's faces all the time because they tried doing the talking thing face to face. They tried going to therapy and it just wasn't working. It just wasn't cutting it, right? One thing they didn't try, maybe, it's like even just something as simple as pillow talk, where like they're not even looking at each other, like laying down side by side in bed, looking up at the ceiling or whatever, just talking. Just talking. I think there's enough of that going on where it's like this more side by side style of communication, like sat down on the side of the bed, side by side, or on the sofa, just but talking in the like not just sitting down on the sofa watching something on Netflix. I mean, like actually sitting down, having a dedicated hour a week where it's like, all right, for this hour a week, we're gonna sit side by side and talk about what we need to talk about. And that way, the rest of the week you can be more chill with each other because you know that you got this hour to like really hash it out or whatever.
Yeah, I think sitting side by side can be useful in talking. I think that also like sustained eye contact with a partner can really promote a lot of like
Intimacy.
understanding and like empathy with the other person. Like when you really like
I think you need both.
stare, if you stare someone, like if you're always like walking by each other and talking without like really looking at each other, and like you can kind of do some creepy shit. Like it's in everybody's nature to kind of like piss off on some of the chores or
Right.
something like that, or like not do what you're supposed to do, and kind of let the other person take the reins in certain things just because that's what they do that thing, and you take care of your thing, and you just kind of like let them do their thing. But when you or and let them take over more of the housework, or more of certain aspects of life, like more of the whatever it is that needs to get done around the house or needs to get done in your guys' life. But if you like deeply look in the other person's eyes and like really connect with them, it's very hard to uh lose that empathy. You really gain like a deep empathy with that person, and you like really feel their struggle as well,
Mm.
just by looking in their eyes. And like you can, yeah, it's just really really good for the communication. But go on, say what you want to say about side by side as well. Like I think it is a good way what you're
Well, I
saying
do.
to talk.
But
as
no,
well.
I think but what you're saying is true though. It's not like what you're saying is no, not like I think both things are needed. So I
Sure.
think there should be like an hour of like non-intimacy side by side, like kind of serious communication where you able to hash out financial issues or whatever the case may be. But then I also think, yeah, you do need to build intimacy, and this is the thing that a lot of maybe men are lacking in doing because they're, for whatever reason, I'm not going to sit here and like assume exactly what's going on because everyone's going to have their own nuanced worldview and their experiences dictating why they act the way they do. But yeah, I'd say argue like that's there's no intimacy. And a lot of the red pill incel guys, they don't understand that. Like even if they do get into a marriage, right, they're not going to do the little things that are actually going to like have long term positive effects. And they might even do the opposite. They might do very negative things, like the insecure ones, for example, might do the "oh, you can't go out wearing that" attitude a little bit too much. You know what I mean? And like to the point where she's not allowed to dress sexy anymore, and then she's not going to be sexy anymore. Eventually, you're going to literally like train her into not being sexy to anyone, including you.
Right. And there's such a transactional nature to the way that they view relationships that they um kind of like build it into their they create the problem that they're worried about, you know what I mean? Like the problem of,
Mm,
oh, women just want you for your money is like when you treat women like in such a transactional way, like, okay, I make the money, the wife takes care of the house, you know what I mean? Or the wife does X, Y, and Z, right? And like, what
hmm
am I getting out of this? What are you bringing to the table? Do you know what I mean? That type of shit.
right,
It's like when it's that like transactional, you create that sort of like gold
exactly.
digger um energy. You know what I mean? Like you attract
Yeah.
those type of people who are interested in a transactional relationship.
Yeah, yeah, man, it's not healthy, and that's why they should do like the self. There's a lot of self improvement in terms of like going to the gym and learning how to like pick up girls, but where's the self improvement in like their self love and like the actual genuine self esteem underneath all that? You know, because they're not comfortable and accepting of themselves, then they're not gonna find people like that are gonna be accepting of them, the real them. They're gonna be accepted for the superficial stuff only.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and with the evolutionary perspective thing, with the yeah, basically, I'm kind of getting at once upon a time, so to speak, it'd be kind of useful to men to evolve being able to communicate while not being too distracted. You know what I mean? In the sense of you want to be able to still deal with potential incoming threats or still be able to work on problems. Like say you're doing the necessary things day to day to survive as a tribe or whatever. Because there's a lot of things you need to be able to do. It's not like today where it's all specialized and you're really good at one thing and that's what your job is focused on. Like you're really good at like software engineering or whatever it is, right? You're specialized in that one niche thing. Um, Back in those times, you kind of had to learn a bit of everything and do lots of all kinds of different stuff, like jack of all trades type deal, right? So you might not have even that much time to have proper communication. Maybe you got to sit around a fire and eat and stuff. But again, same thing, side by side, focused on a group activity together. You're all sat around a campfire eating together. You're all side by side still.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that guys, they kind of crave that feeling of like, oh, I'm the guy in the tribe who does X, you know what I mean? I'm like the arrow maker
Yeah.
or whatever, and that's my contribution to the group. And so I don't do anything else. I just do this one thing, and then, my future is taken care of. Like my needs are taken care of, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I mean, if you're in a tribe, like, yeah, you're the arrow maker, but you're a human. You're part of this group. You do what is necessary, what we need at the moment. You know what I mean? Whatever it is,
Yeah.
you have to be kind of like that jack of all trades. Even though you have a speciality, you still have to be able to adapt and change because the needs of the group adapt and change constantly, right? Like if someone dies or
Absolutely. That's the only
someone's not
constant we talk
capable,
about it.
someone's sick, something's not going right, like you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah, and that's all. There's the whole like survival of the fittest thing. It doesn't even mean like being super strong or whatever. It doesn't mean any of that. It just literally means like fittest gene pool, the most able to procreate and adapt to the environment and whatever form that may take. And you might find that all those like nerdy guys that aren't going to the gym, maybe that's just what that new era needs. They need a bunch of nerdy guys working in office cubicles doing coding or whatever. Like, and you might find that there's people out there that right now are incels that have nothing going for them, but maybe they've got some talents and skills that might be super useful to society in like 5, 10 years time. It's possible. I'm not saying everyone's going to be like that, but it's possible. There's some guys out there really struggling with society because their skill set or whatever, their DNA, like their what, 'cause you haven't even unlocked most of your DNA, right? Unless you go out and do everything in the world to untap that DNA, so to speak. So most of them probably have all this untapped potential they're not even aware of. But there's probably some that do have skills. It's just that those skills aren't as useful to society right now. But who knows? In a year time, that might be a marketable skill.
It's funny that you say about coders needing coders because recently I've been seeing a lot of chatter that coding is going to be out the window here pretty soon. Like AI is
AI,
going to take over all
yeah,
of that, and it'll
100%.
just be like you just read a prompt. I want a program that does X, and
Yeah.
then the AI writes it, and you don't
Do
even
you know
have to
do you know
think
what the
about
new
that.
job will be? The new job will not be coding. The new job will be being
Writing
good
prompts.
at getting it to do being good to write prompt exactly. You're then like you're the AI generator then, right? You're like you're the syntax. That's what
Right.
you are. You're a professional syntaxer.
Yeah. You're just AI prompt generator. You just see the problem and understand how to write a prompt to fix it. That's it.
How
That's
do you feel about AI in general? Like, are you like a pro AI? Let's get it going faster the better. Or are you like a well, let's dial it back a little bit so we like regulate it and maybe keep it in the box more? Or you or like a we shouldn't do it at all kind of guy? Like,
I don't know. I'm the jury's still out on that. Like we're really
what's
at
your
the
emotional reaction?
my emotional reaction is that it doesn't really matter. Like my emotional reaction is that this is like another stage. You know what I mean? This is like
Mm,
cars being invented or
right.
like another source of
You think it's
power
part
being
of the
invented.
course
Like
of
it's
the technology? Yeah.
yeah, like computers, there was like all this weirdness when when computers are invented because, for hundreds of years there was like a records
Mhm.
keeping group of people, like the people who were always keeping the records at the basement of the skyscraper or whatever. Every building, every company had like a records room where they would keep everything in filing cabinets, and if they wanted something they would call it up from the records room, and like, okay, well, we're gonna have to get rid of all those, like, those people are gone now, right? Those people don't exist because it's a server room now, right? It just feels
Mhm.
to me like the same sort of thing. It's just like something some things that people have done for a very long time is now going to become automated by AI. But the problem with that is like the problem with that thinking is like, well, how many? You know what I mean? It might be a lot. It might be more
Hmm.
than just the people who were replaced by computers at the turn of the century. It might be like groundbreakingly a lot of people, like crazy, crazy a lot of people
Could be
getting
like 30% of
displaced.
the workforce or more. Who knows?
Who knows? But that's why I say the jury's still out. It's like, okay, well, it's going to be a disruption. There's always disruptions. There's always change. The change is usually, mostly for the good. Um, but the jury's still. We'll have to see. We'll have to see
I'm sure it'll
how
be
many people.
transitional as
Yeah.
well. It's not going to be like every job chops right away. It'll be like
No.
coding's the first to go. Maybe digital artists will take a big hit right away. So there'll be certain industries or whatever you want to call it, like hit the worst first. But then I think it'll have a knock on effect in some of these other areas, like say autonomous driving, like really gets figured out to the point where like there's no more truckers anymore, completely no more truckers, or maybe no more Ubers. You know what I mean? Like it's all whatever happens.
Yeah. It's interesting. Hmm. It'll be kind of an interesting time that we're going to be living through here, Shun, with AI.
Yeah,
Kind
well, we we rode up from we saw the transition into the computer era, right? We saw, like, the 56K modems and like the Windows 95 computers, and we saw that slowed technology. We saw the brick phones, the first, the iteration of mobile phones and stuff. We
Yeah.
we saw that transition, and now we're seeing the next transition. We, if anything, are like one of the most interesting generations in the sense of we're going to see two major transitions. We were born at the start of one transition to see that first transition, and now we're seeing the one that comes after that.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of
We're gonna be the
generations
wise ones,
a lot of generations only see like one transition, one big change, but I think
right?
we
We're gonna
might
see
end
the
up seeing a
two.
bunch. We might see a
Yeah, or
bunch.
more, yeah. Especially with the life expectancy thing, who knows? Maybe we'll see even more of the transhumanism thing, like, we get to, like, 40 years old, 50 years old, and suddenly our life's extended past 100 years, and the only thing they gotta figure out is how to regenerate brain cells, then we're really going. Not that I want that, by the way.
It'll be weird. It'll be a
That's the issue right now is the brain cell thing. We could probably handle everything else regenerative wise. We could
mm,
probably extend their life quite a lot, but it's the brain cells right now that's the bottleneck.
right.
Once they're dead, we can't really regenerate them at the moment. At the moment,
Well, someday we'll be those heads in jars like on Futurama,
Futurama. Yeah,
casting Starcraft in the year
yeah,
3000.
man. Oh, we should get. All right, do you know what we should do at some point? We should commission like an artist to like someone that's not like too expensive to get to actually like kind of like maybe like do like artwork of me and you in those jars with this art style of Futurama. You know what I mean?
That would be
And we
funny.
could use that. We could use that on like the banner for the podcast, where it's like you've got our logo, but like on the side of the logo is like the two heads in the jar on either side.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
interesting. That would be interesting.
that's food for thought anyway.
All right,
But
guys.
yeah,
This is the episode 1 of the Doom Drop. Hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation between me and Shun. We're gonna be doing this like once a week, maybe. Shun, is that
yeah. Once a
suitable
week.
for you?
We, will- I mean, there might be like some other stuff we do on the side. Who knows? But yeah, for this particular podcast, this particular thing, it's going to be once a week, pretty much.
We'll probably be dual releasing it. We're not sure just yet what we're gonna do with this thing. It's just maybe getting off the ground here. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching the very first episode of the Doom Drop podcast.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you stopping by, tuning in. Also, we'll have better production, audio quality, and stuff coming up as well. So hopefully, this will get a lot better, a lot very, very quickly. This will hopefully take off in the sense of how well we produce it, and hopefully, you guys can enjoy more of this content soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.